This is the case study video for CISC 133 LAN switching and wireless, part 1. And in this video we will be looking at our case study to prepare us for the hands-on final in CISC 133. This will be quite a challenging lab because we will be taking many of the things that we did in 133 and adding some of the old stuff in 132 that you may have forgotten. And this will be quite a challenge, so you may want to practice this in Packet Tracer a couple times before you try to tackle it with the real stuff. Or if nothing else, you at least want to try to just watch the video. So this will be part 1, and in this part we're just going to maybe create a plan of attack here for how we're going to go around getting this thing set up. So let's look at what's being asked of us here. There's a topology with 3 routers and 3 switches with 4 workstations. They want us to create an IP scheme, harden our devices. They want routing with OSPF. We want to do inter-VLAN routing and trunking between the switches on this LAN here. And then in order to do that, we have to create the VLANs using VTP and then do some housekeeping and finishing it up. So what I would suggest you do now is take a minute and come up with your own plan of how you would attack this. What steps you take one by one. So you want to break it up into smaller pieces, and that might make it a little easier so you don't forget something or trip over something in 2 different spots. So take a minute now and come up with a plan of how you think you'd want to implement this network. Welcome back, and here's the plan that I've come up with. So we'll call this the Standup plan. And what I envision doing would be starting at layer 1, creating the physical topology. That would include choosing all the correct cables and the correct devices. So you may remember that in our topology we have 3 routers that are going to be connected through serial connections. Well, you may remember in Packet Tracer that some of the routers don't come with serial interfaces. So we're going to want to choose routers that already have serial interfaces so I don't have to add any wicks or NICs to the routers themselves. We also want to choose the correct cable. So if we are making a connection between 2 switches, we're going to want to make sure to use a crossover cable unless we're using those gigabit ports. We'll then want to label those connections, double check them for accuracy. So if we double check them 1 step at a time, then later we won't find we've got a problem. My second step would be a layer 2 configuration where we would create the trunks and VLANs. We want to configure the trunks on the switches, make sure that they are actually trunking, then create a VTP domain, add the VLANs, create the VLANs and then assign them to the correct ports. Again, double check for accuracy. Then check to make sure that all the VLANs are allowed on all the trunks by doing the show interface trunk command. Then we'll go to step 3, which is layer 3 addressing, come up with an IP scheme, label the interfaces, and then properly configure all the interfaces and devices with the correct information. That would be the IP address, the right subnet mask, and the correct default gateways for switches and workstations. Then I would triple check them for accuracy because this is probably going to be where we make the biggest mistake. If we don't do it here, we'll do it here with the incorrect interfaces and ports. So Step 4 will be test and troubleshoot. So at this point, I should be able to ping from one side of a local network to another side. So I should be able to ping from like this workstation to that router, from this router to that router to this router, and this router to that workstation. But remember, I will not be able to ping beyond that local network because I don't have any routing yet. So my next step then will be to configure OSPF, make sure that I have the correct network statements, and double check that. I would then want to do a show IP route on all my routers to make sure that I can see all of them. And lastly, I will do my housekeeping and hardening, simply because if I do this early on, then every time I open up a router or a switch and I have to make a change to it, I'll get this right yet, I'm going to have to put in the username and password. Also, if I mess something up, so if I put port security on this early, I'm going to have to shut the interfaces down, clear port security if I have to switch two connections if I made a mistake. So I'll keep housekeeping and device hardening last, so I don't have to waste a lot of time doing that. So this will be the end of part 1, and we'll pick it up in case study part 2, where we actually start configuring the devices.